here, and I'm also really nervous. So I'm going to be potentially looking at my phone, which is probably going to seem really rude, but trust me, it'll be better for all of us. And I'm hoping that this seems like a really nurturing place, and you're going to help me to get through something that's very fearful for me, public speaking. I think some people are kind of scared of going out to sea and not being able to see the land, and I love that. This is terrifying. You all look very friendly though, so I hope you'll bear with me, and we'll get through this together. I'm usually a behind-the-scenes kind of person. I've had a lot of different jobs. I've been a silversmith, a dishwasher. I've worked in dark rooms, developing film. I've been a telemarketer that you probably would have wanted to hang up on. And I've also been a chef and a writing instructor and a journalist and an environmental and Native Hawaiian rights attorney. And now I get to work for the Polynesian Voyaging Society, which is pretty cool. It doesn't seem like all those things kind of fit together, but they really do, and they all have led to this amazing opportunity that we get to share not just with all of you, but with all of Hawaii, because this is Hawaii's canoe. Hokule'a is Hawaii's canoe, and she's coming home to you in June of this year. So June 17th, 2017, your canoe is coming home, and we can't wait. So here we go, see, starting with the slides. So my title is Chief Operating Officer, but what that really means is that I do whatever needs to be done on any given day. And I use all of my past experiences to try to get Hokule'a into and out of all the right places. For instance, it's helped me to negotiate to get Hokule'a into a dangerous port in order to avoid a deadly storm. And it's helped me to gain permission to transit the Panama Canal when vessels without engines are actually not allowed to do so. This came as a big surprise to us. And then I also get to actually sail. I get paid to sail, you guys. It's the best job ever. I'm a qualified crew member. I'm a rescue swimmer, which is why I brought these props. I'm a safety officer, quartermaster, which means I have to know where everything is on the canoe in case anybody wants it at any given time. Watch captain, and I'm the onboard's logistics coordinator. So some of you, even sitting in this audience, have known since they were little kids exactly what they wanted to do. And some of us are never really exactly sure where we're going. But we do recognize our passions, our priorities, what brings us joy, what we want to protect, what we want to improve upon, and we surround ourselves with people, positive people, who care about us and want us to succeed. And one of those people is my friend Jessica Carew, who's in this room. And she's promised not to heckle me too much. So I may not have been able to identify my passions, which happened to be the ocean and justice, when I was younger, but as I've gone through my life, it's become more and more clear. And looking back from the lessons I learned at my first job when I was 11, all the way through my current job, through all of my formal education, my traveling, international experience, and outdoor life, I continue to be fortunate to live a life that allows me to stay true to those passions and to find and keep wonderful friends and mentors who assure that I enjoy my path and know what each step is going to be fulfilling and exciting and even a little challenging. And I really wish that for all of you, whatever you want to do. I hope that you have the ability to discover your passions, to take the time to do that, to live fully within and for those passions, and to be surrounded by people who believe in you and are willing to teach you, just like you are right now, I think, at La Pietra. So, for our worldwide voyage, the Polynesian Voyaging Society, in keeping with my passions, is in part seeking successful examples from around the world of ocean governance and care that include the people of the place. So not just care for the environment, but for the people of the environment, for all of us. We seek to support their successes in a manner that provides lessons of hope and empowers actions for us all. We're seeking island wisdom, ocean connections, and global lessons applicable for all of us who live on island Earth. Some examples can be found here, in our own home. The vast seascapes and islands of the Hawaiian archipelago represent the outer limits of the story of Pacific voyaging and settlement. The Pacific started to be settled 7,000 years ago out of Taiwan, and started to come up through Tonga and Sāmoa, and the Polynesians sailed voyaging canoes, much like Hokule'a. Hokule'a is certainly modeled after them. These people, they were able to not only discover, but also populate a 10 million acre, or 10 million square mile area, the Polynesian Triangle, which is really the largest continent in the entire world, in the middle of the largest ocean in the entire world. These people, really, this was one of the greatest human migrations ever undertaken and successfully completed, Hawaii being the last stop. Polynesian voyagers arrived in the Hawaiian archipelago about 2,000 years ago. They argue about that sometimes, but the people who first came here, they found islands with fertile soils, abundant water, and reefs rich with marine life. And like all indigenous peoples, they've evolved with their place. They've developed in relative isolation their own culture, finely attuned to your immediate and natural surroundings, and they've created agricultural terraces along hillsides, extensive water patties for the lo'i, and fish ponds over shallow reefs, as well as providing for sustainable management all the way out to the pelagic, more than 200 miles out to sea. And part of this ability originates with the Hawaiian belief that Native Hawaiians are genealogically connected with all of the natural elements of this place. So they can care for it, and we can care for it as grandmothers, as grandfathers, as your siblings, as your moms and dads. That's how people, when they care about a place, they look at the elements of the place. Hawaiians' voyaging heritage and renewed wayfinding acumen is a source of great pride. Ancient Polynesians and living Polynesians still navigate just by using observation of natural elements. So they're looking at stars, the sun, the moon, but also ocean swells, seabirds, seeing where they're coming and going from, and knowing their range to help them figure out how close they are to islands. Looking at what's floating in the water, watching the wind and how it's traveling, and understanding how weather patterns bounce off of land masses. So that's how people could actually know that they were coming upon an island. It wasn't just happenstance. And Hokule'a was built just to prove that. There was a long-time theory that most of you might have heard of that was propagated by Thor Heyerdahl, that basically people just kind of floated around in the middle of the ocean and bumped into things. It's kind of a hard way to live. And Polynesians were really smart. And so the Polynesian Voyaging Society wanted to prove that. They wanted to bring back that pride and knowledge. And so they built Hokule'a, a 62-foot-long double-hulled sailing voyaging canoe, to test those voyaging capabilities that hadn't been used in more than 600 years. So yes, there were voyaging canoes for thousands of years, but this was the first trans-archipelagic voyaging canoe that was built in 600 years. And because they hadn't had one, people didn't know how to navigate anymore, because they didn't need to know how to get that far. They still needed to know how to get up to certain islands for fishing. People would still sail in canoes up to Papahanaumokuakea, or the northwestern Hawaiian Islands, to fish. And they had some navigational expertise from that, but they hadn't gone really deep sea in a very long time. So when we finally launched Hokule'a back in 1975, a lot of people didn't believe that anyone could even build a canoe that floated, sail her any great distance, much less find Tahiti. How could people ever do that if they'd never done it before? So they built this canoe as kind of a theory, an experiment, and they expected it to just sail once. And then they were gonna bring her home. They were even talking about towing her home, and they were gonna put her in a museum. they're going to put her in Bishop Museum, which owned Hokule'a. But instead, by the time we set sail in 2014 around the world, she'd already sailed the equivalent of 5.5 times around the world, just in the Pacific. So Hokule'a, she was built by PBS's founders, 3 of them, Herb Kane, Ben Finney, and Tommy Holmes. And it was really just to prove this little hypothesis. But it wouldn't have been possible, since no one had done this in such a long time, if we hadn't found a Micronesian named Mau Piailu. Mau was really brave. He had to break with family and island and community tradition in order to share his knowledge outside of that community, much less outside of his family. But he knew that if he didn't, his knowledge would die, because no one was doing this anymore, even in his home. Only he was going out to sea to come back and fish without an engine. And he wanted to make sure that somebody somewhere managed to hold on to this knowledge and not just write it down, but use it, implement it, and build upon it. So he agreed to leave his home and teach us. So Mau did teach, Hokule'a did sail. Mau found Tahiti where he had never been. He came to this place, he'd never sailed, he was looking at stars, some of which were familiar, but they were moving in a different way than he was used to, and he found a place he'd never even traveled to. It amazed millions of people, and it helped to prove that you could intentionally populate a place where you've never been through the knowledge of your natural surroundings and the experience of your ancestors if you were smart enough to pay attention and pass on that baseline knowledge. So the Hawaiian culture, in large measure, people think, because of Hokule'a, was revived and rekindled. People started to have more pride in it anyway. It was more able to be in the public eye. People could start to speak Hawaiian again. And it was on the verge, really, of being extinct before Hokule'a set sail. And now it was recognized and being honored again, which was a dream of one of PBS's other mentors, Heidi Kai Guth. Eddie admitted before he left on his voyage to be scared of voyaging. Here's this amazing waterman, but he was terrified. But his determination, his passion for his people, and for the real meaning of aloha helped him not only to sail, but then to want to go and help save the people who were going to take care of that canoe. Another one of our mentors is Myron or Pinky Thompson, Nainoa Thompson's father. After Hokule'a capsized and we lost Eddie, a lot of people, they didn't believe in Hawaiians again, and they certainly were very scared to set out to sea again. The whole community basically fell apart. But Pinky, he wanted to make sure that it wasn't just about Native Hawaiians. Hokule'a was Hawaii's canoe. It's an inclusive organization. Anyone can be a member. Trust me, I can sand and varnish with the best of them, and I have no Hawaiian in me. But the honor and the privilege of being a part of helping to perpetuate a knowledgeable and brilliant and honorable culture is such a gift. And a lot of that is because Pinky didn't give up, and he brought together a lot of people who didn't give up either. Another one of Nainoa's mentors and PBS's friends is Lacey Beach, who was a NASA Space Shuttle astronaut. He happened to be in the Columbia Space Shuttle while Nainoa was sailing near Rarotonga, Cook Islands. And they got on a 3-way conversation. So it was the space shuttle, Hokule'a, and Punahou, which happened to be their alma mater. We'll forgive them for that. But they were men, so. So that particular triangulation made Lacey want to come home. And when he did, he met with Pinky, and he talked about the importance of Hokule'a sailing around the world. And this was in 1992. It was very important to them that Hokule'a sail around the world and bring aloha to the earth. Lacey, this is an ad that we're not sure if he stole from Mauna Kea. I'm pretty sure it was gifted. But he brought that up with him in the space shuttle, which he wasn't supposed to do. And if you can tell, you can see Hawaii Island. So there's the ads floating in the air above Mauna Kea. And Lacey talks about this a lot, that having seen Hawaii from space, he really recognized it as a jewel of the planet. And that everyone should have that joy of recognizing their kuleana and their place, their privilege and their responsibility to care for their place. So Hawaii and her canoes have become laboratories for how to live well on any island. Today, after Hokule'a first sailed, and you can hear it, she was sailing back in 1992 as well, now there's 5 native Hawaiian Po or master navigators, which is the same level, not really the same level that Mao was at, but the same title that Mao had. And there's 25 other voyaging canoes, which is why we call Hokule'a Mama Hokule'a. She has birthed all of these other voyaging canoes and communities. And now that Hokule'a has set sail around the planet, we've actually sailed the equivalent of 6.5 times around the Earth, and we're almost home. So you might have noticed that a lot of these pictures, this is kind of the traditional presentation of PBS. Like, we like to talk about our teachers and our mentors because it's our genealogy, it's part of who we are, and we want to respect and honor all of the work and effort that they put into this. But it's all men. I felt a little weird bringing just men to you guys because I really want to inspire all of you to know that you can do all of these things too. And maybe they're the ones who started it, but they're not the only ones who started it. There was Paige Barber who made sure that there was enough food on board for that first voyage to Tahiti. She spent years testing what foods would last on board and what wouldn't. And the one that lasted the longest as a dried fruit was apple bananas. So they ate a lot of apple bananas. And then there's also Penny Martin from Molokai. Some of you who paddle might know her. And she was the first woman who sailed on Hokule'a. She was part of the original crew, and she sailed Hokule'a home from Tahiti. And she stayed with them all along. 30% of the crew members now of the Worldwide Voyage are women, and 30% of the apprentice navigators are also women. But when Hokule'a comes home, part of the purpose of the Worldwide Voyage was to have a passing of the torch of the leadership. She's going to be captained by Pomai Bertelman of Waimea, Hawaii, and she'll be navigated by this woman, Ke'ilani Murphy. So these two women, who are mentors to those of us who are still in the voyaging community now, they're going to be icons, whether they want to be or not, starting in June. And they're preparing already, and we're so proud of them. And I hope you pay attention to them as they come home, because they know they have a really big example to set. They're completely up to the task. They could have done it years ago, but we're really thrilled that they've been asked to do it now. But really, in talking to them, I called them, I was like, I'm gonna talk to these wonderful girls, and I wanna make sure that they know that they have mentors and people to look up to, other females that are within even the Voyaging Society. And we talked about it, and there was one that stood out to all of us. One that keeps us going even when there's frustrating times, which there are in any kind of endeavor. And one that really symbolizes the grace and the patience and the flexibility that's required for success and honor and inspiration. And that is Mama Hokule'a. She's the epitome of the female essence that we all look up to, that we all admire, that we all strive to be as much like as possible. She's our shining star. Just as she's named after the Zenith Star of Hawaii, she's our leading star that guides us whenever, again, like I said, we get frustrated or we just think, really, can we go into Mozambique? I mean, their flag has 2 automatic weapons crossed on it. Seriously. And yes, we did, we got in. And we really think it's because of Hoku. Like, she only brings good people to her. She only makes the right things happen. And whenever things get rough, you can borrow her. I'm willing to loan her to you. She's a really good essence. So in 2013, we launched our Worldwide Voyage. and we launched it here in Hawaii. The first leg in 2013 was around Hawaii because we wanted to make sure Hawaii was with us. I mean, this is Hawaii's canoe. We're about to take her far, far away into oceans she's never sailed. We better make sure that everyone, every community knows her and loves her and understands our mission and is behind us, or we really can't go. We can't take her away from her home. And this is when I had a full circle kind of experience. I had stopped working for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, where I'd been for 10 years. I had been an advocate for a long time there, and also their general counsel for the environment, so their lead attorney for the environment. But I was also their manager for Papahānaumokuākea when it was first established. So I helped to write the federal regulations that protect it, and it's the only World Heritage Site and the only marine protected area that protects both natural resources and cultural resources, both the indigenous peoples of the place, and it perpetuates their ability to go to that place, to learn from it, to sail in the wake of their ancestors. And we had to work really hard to make that happen. And I got to actually sail there, so that was pretty exciting. And when we arrived, there were other Hawaiians that were on the island, and they had gotten a permit to be there to study the nearshore areas, what was growing there, the opihi and the limu and everything. And so they called out to us from this ancient, ancient place in Hawaiian. It was just this miraculous experience to be sailing on a voyaging canoe into what is considered the homeland, really, of the po, the essence of all Native Hawaiian genealogy, to be greeted by Native Hawaiians, and then to have Hawaiians on board who are able to ole back. So your life, who knows where you're gonna go, but eventually it circles around. So it was an incredible honor to be on board her. And she was used as this training run to Nihoa was used as a training run for apprentice navigators. So that's Ki'ilani on this side. That picture is kind of an old picture. She actually passed this apprenticeship test long ago, but she was along to make sure that the new apprentices figured stuff out appropriately. I don't know if you can see, it's really hard to find Nihoa. It's super small. You can only find it when the sun is rising right behind it. Otherwise, I mean, there's no lights around it or anything. So you not only have to sail in the right direction, but you have to time it right to find this itty bitty teeny weeny thing, which is in a haze right now, in between those two shrouds. So these are the 6 apprentice navigators. They were all in their 20s at that time. And this was their first test, and they were able to try to work together in teams. And they succeeded. They found Nihoa, and right after that, they fell asleep. Luckily, the rest of us were on board to keep sailing. We had 4 of the 5 Native Hawaiian po on board. This is Uncle Bruce up in the bow and Uncle Shorty in the back. Uncle Shorty had never been to Papahānaumokuākea, and for them, it was really amazing. They said they'd never seen birds like they saw there, and it was just like the legends that they had been taught of how to navigate. These were the birds that they had always looked for, and they would see 1 or 2, but here they were seeing hundreds and thousands of them. So it really brought home to them the lessons that they had been taught by Mao, and it made their experience that much more vital, as well as reinforcing their enthusiasm and passion for perpetuating not only their knowledge, but protecting this place so that people could continue to train and learn from it. It was the first stop of a marine protected site, a World Heritage marine protected site of many as we were going to travel around the world. We obviously had some pretty big plans. So we've managed to set off on the international leg back in May of 2014, and we're 3/4 of the way around. We used both of our va'a, so the 2 sister va'a, Hokule'a and Hikianalia, sailed together throughout the Pacific. Hikianalia has since come home, but we look at them as floating classrooms. And so they're able to exemplify life on an island. I mean, you've got nobody else with you except for your community that's sailing with you. You only have the supplies that you pack with you, and you can only sail as well as the person next to you or the person who's on watch while you're asleep. So we can continue to learn from other cultures and other places, what they have learned and what we can teach them from Hawaii. We're setting up the next generation of leadership so that this knowledge is not only perpetuated amongst one generation, but amongst many into the future who we don't even know. We're getting people out, and not only into and on the ocean, but around the world into different communities that they can learn from and bring back expertise and bring back hope. We're training them in voyaging, obviously, because we want to perpetuate that particular element. And we're not only learning as we go, but we're teaching what we've learned from home. And then we're bringing what we learn from overseas back here to Hawaii. And that's part of our goal when we come back in June. We're going to sail around Hawaii again because we want to go back to all those communities that we took Hokule'a from. And we want to bring her back, reintroduce her, and make sure that everybody feels that they've been part of this voyage and that they have gotten something out of it just as much as they've put into it. We've been able to meet with world leaders, gain commitments from many different nations and many different entities to try to continue and perpetuate this work for oceans and cultures around the world. So, I mean, it can't just be us, we all have to work together. And we've managed to stop everywhere we were supposed to and a couple of places we weren't, like Mozambique. But my favorite part, I've been able to sail 3 times. I got to crew throughout the South Pacific, so French Polynesia, Cook Islands, American Samoa, absolutely beautiful, everyone should go. And seeing it from a voyaging canoe is just amazing. The cultural exchanges were phenomenal. And then I've also gotten to sail up the coast of New England, from Rhode Island, past where I went to college in Connecticut, up to Maine. But my favorite part was sailing through the Atlantic and into the Caribbean from Brazil to where I grew up in the Virgin Islands. So this is Brazil. We're getting ready to load her up. And this is how we found St. John, my home, 17 days later. And it was a beautiful sunrise, it's coming out. This is the Virgin Islands flag that you've probably never seen. You should hear our anthem, it's like a circus. It's really cool. And I got to sail home. I got to actually steer home. So that was pretty cool. And now I have to scroll through my phone, so forgive me. Here we go. So I was born in Hawaii. I was born on Maui. My dad is a park ranger at Hokule'a, and we got transferred to the Virgin Islands. I actually moved there when I was 10, and for all of the grades of La Pietra, I was at a similar school. We had 250 students, but it was pre-K through senior and high school. 16 kids in my class, 8 boys and 8 girls. But it was kind of a different life. I grew up on this little tiny island. There could see a point to the right. That's where my house was. It was a really rough life. My dad was stationed there, like I said, as a park ranger. And so that was my backyard. I used to swim out to that little island all the time. I had to take a ferry to school. My mom had to take a ferry to get groceries. We only got water from the rain that fell on our roofs throughout the year. So if you ran out, you had to borrow from somebody else. And we only had power when this organization called the Water and Power Authority let us have it. So when I was a kid, there was a really popular t-shirt. It said, God said, let there be light. WAPA said, heck no. So I grew up doing, I'm really not this old, but I grew up doing my homework by kerosene lantern. I was apprenticed out when I was 11 to a silversmith. We all were apprenticed out. We all had to have jobs because we had to pay for school. So I went to a private school too, on another island, small like I said. Worked all the way through school, but all of my classmates did too. And I was the first one from my island and from my school to get into Yale University, which is really far away and really cold. It was a big revelation to me that when it's sunny out, it's not warm necessarily. I went out in shorts, dumb. But learned a lot. And it really set me up for success, because I realized while I was there, among many other things, how much I love the ocean and how much I missed it, and how I was only really going to be happy if I was living practically in it and helping to make it better and make other people understand how important it was. So that voyage from Brazil to St. John was really special for me in a lot of ways. I had already sailed in Japan, around Hawaii. I qualified as a crew member for the worldwide voyage on what was then the roughest voyage Hokule'a had ever had. We didn't see the sun, the moon, or the stars for 9 days. We had an 80-foot rogue wave come through. We lived on the canoe in just our foul weather gear, and so we were wet the whole time, and we had boils coming out of our skin. It was really miserable, and I loved it. Oh my gosh, it was so amazing. You have this great community of people. There were only 11 of us on board. We made each other laugh the entire time. We took care of each other. Sometimes we had to tie each other on. And we had to sew the canvas that keeps us covered, because waves would come through and actually break through while we were sleeping. Somebody woke up and swears that a dolphin landed on him. I think he's making that up. But it was just this wonderful, wonderful experience, and I cherish that time, that freedom at sea, where you can't see land at all, and you can go anywhere, absolutely anywhere you want. But there's nothing really as wonderful as taking my ohana. You really become ohana, you really become family on the canoe, because it's just you. Taking them home to my ohana in St. John was really just a blessing to me. So that's us sailing in. And these are just real quick some photos of life on board the canoe. You can see, this is how we pack our food. So in the hulls, that's where we store all of our food for the whole voyage and all of our water. And we pack it all up in what we call these day boxes. And it's all set up so that you have a menu for every day, your breakfast, your lunch, your dinner. And you have the quartermaster, which I told you I sometimes get to be. You have to load it and make sure that it's weighed just right, so that if you take from day one's food from the front of the port side or left side, then you're going to take the next day's food from the front or the starboard or right side, so that you don't get all tippy. And then you're going to go to the stern, because otherwise you're going to start listing, and that's not very comfortable. So there's a lot of preparation that goes into this, making sure you have enough food and water for everybody. Because food is really important. You're cooking it on a 2-burner stove, propane stove. Our cooks are our favorite people. They really keep their morale up. You can see this is somebody looking out from inside their bunk, and they're looking at the guy sitting on this little tiny bucket cooking our meal. This is somebody climbing out of his bunk. This is Kealoha. Someone was talking about remembering Kealoha. He's one of our best cooks. And we get super excited. Like you saw those canned foods on the dock for packing. Man, we have canned tuna, canned chicken, canned Spam, canned Vienna sausages. Because we have no refrigeration, right? So fresh fish is a pretty big deal. Start filleting it up, and he's filleting, this is our shower, our kitchen, and our bathroom, and where we fillet fish. So you can imagine we have to keep everything really, really clean, right? So you get down in this little wallow in the back of one of the hulls, and he stands down there. You can see that there's a curtain up there to the right. So if you are taking a shower or you are going to use the restroom, you pull that curtain closed so no one can see you. But trust me, nobody wants to see you. So nobody's looking. And you use buckets of water for everything. This is our shower. You can see he's got backup buckets behind him, so he's gonna lather up a couple of times and rinse off. Salt water for everything, because there's not enough room for fresh water for showers. There's just enough room for fresh water for drinking and cooking. And this festive photo is to show you kind of where we sleep, because that tent area, we're really camping at sea. So we sleep head to toe in each hull underneath that canvas cover. So everybody needs to shower because there's no breaks between the people. Like, the people's feet are where your head is. But I also wanted to show you the bathroom. Yay! Everybody always asks where that is. So the bathroom is in the back. You see that catwalk, that board that's coming down? So this is why I have props. So you have a hand for yourself and a hand for the canoe. And you always, this is actually a life vest. If it were to get really wet in here, this would blow up and I would probably be smothered. But anyway, so you put this on. And you have to wear this every time you're on watch. So it's really kind of a pain if it's raining for part of the time and you have your rain jacket on, and then you have to take this all off. Or if you're wearing bibs for your foul weather gear, which means that you have pants that come all the way up, that means you have to take this off, and then the jacket, and then the pants, and then but you have to put this back on before you actually go to the bathroom. Because you take this is how you tie yourself to the canoe. And you're gonna wrap it around a pole, hopefully a thicker one than this one. And you're going to attach this. And then you're gonna hold on here. You're gonna have your toilet paper already ready. You've got it in a pocket up here, as much as you think you're gonna need. You get really good at estimating. And then you're holding on here, you're leaning back, and you're squatting down on that little post back there. But before you've gone back there, you've told everybody you're going back there. I'm going to the luau. Not only so nobody looks, and again, nobody wants to look, but also because it has happened that this is broken. And so fortunately, the person who this happened to, we've only had 4 man overboards in 43 years, which is a pretty good record. But the person that, and they've all been fine, they're all good. The person that happened to, he was so shocked. I mean, he'd done everything right, except that he'd taken one hand off. But this thing broke, and he couldn't even yell. He was just shocked. How could this happen? I'm in the water, and the canoe's going that way. But luckily, he had a hat on, which came off. And some crew member who's patently not looking at where the person's going to the bathroom is looking out the back and sees this hat. Like, hey, that's so-and-so's hat. And luckily, he was wearing this, which did inflate. And we went through the whole drill, and we were able to get him. But it's just really important to remember, one hand for you, one hand for the canoe. Okay, prop number 1.
Sorry, we are running a little short on time, Heidi. Okay, can we take a couple of questions?
Yeah, please do. And if somebody wants to wear this, they can. Go ahead.
So years ago, I was on a sailboat with my daughter in the Caribbean for 2 weeks. So I understand some of your challenges. And one of the biggest challenges I had was seasickness. So I wanted to know, do you have that? And if you do, how do you cope with it?
I'm so lucky I don't. But there's a lot of people who do, and they sail anyway because they're crazy. But a lot of people actually really do get seasick, especially in the beginning, and they just treat it with medication and they're completely fine. Or they are only seasick in the beginning and it goes away within 3 days. But we always have a medical officer on board. That's one of the requirements for crew, and they take care of everybody. Yes? Yes, please, come on. Anybody else have questions?
This is more of a comment to encourage you guys. So on the Panama Canal trip, the medical officer on board was a lobcat scratcher. So our school already has a relationship with Hokule'a, and like maybe you guys will be the next navigators. Her name is If you are 10th grade, we met her when we went to the lighthouse.